It's TEDA time. Living in Terrebonne. Living in Terrebonne. You sure won't want to miss it, and I'll bet that you'll revisit. Living in Terrebonne. Local Terrebonne Parish economic news.
Hello and welcome to this edition of TEDA Time. I'm your host, Keith Whiteside, licensed clinical social worker. Thank you so much for joining us. However you may be joining us, we appreciate it. And as always, when we talk TEDA, we welcome in Cohen B. Guidry. Cohen, welcome back to the program, my friend.
Thank you, Keith.
Yeah,
What's the B for?
it's
We'll talk about that later.
It's one of those professional. We learned it when you graduate high school. They call out your full name with your middle initial. It's a way to formalize you as an introduction. And so the first time Cohen came on, the B was on there. So it's Cohen B. Guidry. So we also welcome in Christopher
M.
Pulaski, of course, with the parish director of zoning and planning. Chris, thanks for joining us as well.
You're welcome.
All right.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. And so listen, one of those things that we always like to talk about as time goes by, we realize the importance of learning what we do, how we do it, and you guys are always involved in some of these options and some of these monies that come in. And I'm excited that we have people like yourselves kind of figuring out what we need, always doing a needs assessment. And this is kind of where this program, this Bayou Cane Storm water retention kind of came to be, right?
Yes, sir. We, it's something that was well before my time. This is something that Chris can kind of give you the background on, but it's certainly evolved from that point just recently.
Okay. Chris, a little bit of the history there, if that's okay?
Sure. I mean, the project that we'll be discussing has been on the books as an idea for years.
Okay.
And what we're talking about essentially is stormwater management. And that, in particular, in this instance, being able to, in some cases, retain and others detain water for a given period of time to help aid our system in terms of dealing with stormwater runoff. But what really instigated the project was a few years back when Parish President Dove was successful working with Shell. Shell donated over 4,000 acres of property to Terrebonne Parish, and that was the idea behind it. We can use it for stormwater management. And as you know, President Dove, that's a passion of his,
Sure.
Of course. And so this project kind of is a good snapshot of all the things that he really focuses on. But it's a great project. Again, it's 4,000 acres. What we're talking about, and we can go to the
Aaron, pull that up, please.
there you go. So on the right-hand side of your screen is Savannah Road. On the far left is Highway 90. And then on the bottom of the screen would basically be the Highway 311 Whiskey Bayou corridor. And on the top of the screen would be the Highway 24 and Bayou Cane corridor. So in the top right, you see in red, there's a Rouse's logo. That is sort of the anchor point for this system, because basically what we're doing is you have the two bayous, and then of course Bayou Cane and Whiskey Bayou ultimately converge into Little Bayou Black.
Right.
And there's a pump station there at the entrance to Sugarwood subdivision. But the pump station, and that the next slide shows a little bit about that. There you go. So the pump station behind Rouse's, which we just had our groundbreaking ceremony on last week,
Very exciting.
is at the bottom of the screen, and that's a $15 million project in of itself. And it will have the capacity of pumping, I think it's 1 million gallons every 5.5 minutes, out of Bayou Cane into this basin. Now, the 4,000 acres, I mean, it really, on the graphic at the upper part of the screen, it shows it kind of cutting off at Highway 90, but it really goes further, at least the property that we were given. And that's where all of the water in the upstream in our watershed, even from Assumption and Lafourche and Thibodaux, it's all coming into that top area. So that's sort of the headwaters of Bayou Cane and Whiskey Bayou. So it all finds its way into that basin, but having that pump station there gives us the ability to move water out of Bayou Cane into that basin, so that the system itself can operate more efficiently downstream.
And listen, anybody that has traveled up and down Savannah Road, anytime there have been heavy rains, anybody that's been there in this parish knows that there's a need for better water management there,
Yeah.
right?
Well-
I mean, just for those of us that live in that area.
I mean, our system, you need to understand how it all works. I mean, everything west or north of the intercoastal, obviously all goes into the intercoastal, but it can't even get in there if the intercoastal is high.
That's right.
And so the ability that this system will have is we can hold back water to allow the intercoastal levels to drop a little bit so it can accommodate more runoff from the upstream. And then we can release it in a controlled manner back into the system so that it can get its way out. Otherwise, it just backs up.
Right, right.
So this system, it works in conjunction with the Bonanza pump station. It works in conjunction with the Sugarwood Little Bayou Black pump station, and then also the pump station off of Williams and North Hollywood Road over near Cenac Towing's operation.
Yeah, and again, it's one of those things where it's fantastic to be able to see the vision of how to manage these things, to coordinate with what's already in place, and make sure that we are, thanks to Shell, this property that we can really manage better. And there's a lot of exciting things that are coming with that. So it's not only that, but there's some options here that we can kind of show. And I love the fact that we're finding a way to make things better as we're trying to kind of, with some beautification of our area as well. So let's talk about this this next 100-year challenge and what that meant.
So back in March, and Chris had kind of, in a 5-minute, 5,000-foot version, showed me what they were going to do out there, because I'd asked what the signs were on the side of the road and things like that, because I was unaware. And then in March, President Dove got a invitation to attend the Greater New Orleans Foundation next 100-year challenge.
Okay.
He had a conflicting schedule or event that he couldn't make it, so I went on the administration's behalf. And I really was unaware of what we were going to talk about, if we had to have a presentation or what have you. So we went along, and one of the other parishes in the 9th Ward had a presentation about what they were doing to combat floodwaters and things such as that. And these cartoons popped in my brain. So when I had to get up and present, we started talking about this. But the 100-year challenge was Greater New Orleans Foundation had $1 million set aside, and they said, what can we do? So there was 13 parishes that can compete, and there's going to be 10 $100,000 grants. And the great thing about these grants is there's no required match. So we don't have to go get money from anywhere else. They will allow us. But it's a competition. It's going to be the 10 best projects.
Okay.
So a couple of the people came up afterwards and they said, I want to know more about this, because this is outstanding. It has not just, one purpose. There's multitudes of purposes here. It's a stormwater prevention, but it's a quality of life. It's a health aspect. It's a nature. It's an ecosystem, and all those things. So they have put it out there, and they've been in constant contact. They put on a workshop for us for everybody to come to in Laplace. And Chris and I went to represent Terrebonne Parish, and there was one other parish there. So we had consultants that literally from all over the world, Sweden, Denmark, New York, I mean, all over the United States, all over the world, to specialize in water management.
Right.
So we had a team of people who were basically drooling at the ideas and the concepts because it got them so excited,
Right.
which in turn really brought height in that for us as far as the importance of this and the doability of it.
Wow.
And not only do they do this every day in their lives, I mean, that's what they do for a living, they know where to go and find the funds, whether it's federal, state, private. And they give you so many. So at the end of the day, as it wrapped up, because there's illustrations, they do topographical maps, they do watershed, they do all these things to solidify and give us the best ideas how to get this thing off the ground the right way the first time. So then they can help you find the funding for this afterwards.
So, Chris, speaking of funding,
Yeah. So, and part of that program too, what they recognize that 100,000, even though of course it's a lot of money, in a project such as this, it's just a small amount. So they recognize that. So the purpose behind the grant is to pick a project that stands a very good chance of being funded through some much larger funding stream, like federal dollars, like in the instance of this project. So the 100,000 is meant to enhance our application and make it all the more stronger. And so one of the partnerships, we were talking about partnerships earlier, one of those is TEDFO, the TEDA Foundation. And that's the applicant, because in this grant program, it has to be a nonprofit making the application.
right.
So the parish and TEDFO are working together on this, and the pitch basically is to use that 100,000, if successful, when it's awarded to us, we'll be successful, of course.
Right, of course.
Is to use it for the creation of an environmental study, because that area, isn't the healthiest of ecosystems like it once was, and so part of this project, it not only will improve the efficiency of the stormwater management aspects and engineering side of it, but it'll also improve the natural systems and green infrastructure side, which is a lot of check boxes for this grant program. But improving that habitat overall, it'll just be a win-win for everybody.
Well, and you bring up some really good points about how we have to kind of manage this. I love the idea of using that money to really be able to really look at that ecosystem and see what it is that we can do to develop it. And that's the whole idea. So speaking of that development, the Nature and Recreation Conservatory is the idea.
So the recreation aspect of this, it's about the perimeter of this, where you see the yellow line all the way around it, is approximately 10 miles.
Wow.
So there would have to be some improvements on certain parts of the berm.
Okay.
The Bayou Cane side is, for the most part, there, because when they redug Bayou Cane, they put the spoils back on top.
Right.
A couple areas. In the far left point, where it's running along Highway 90, the tourism center is very, very close to that.
Okay.
So
gotcha.
that could be,
What a great
that's a concept for people who have never been here driving by, but they
Right.
want to get out, stretch their legs, walk the dog, mile markers along the way. But you could potentially have no motorized type vehicles, but
Right.
bicycle track, running track, walking track around the surface of the berm that goes all the way around it. The yellow line going through the middle is a proposed elevated nature walk, boardwalk,
Right.
that you can go out and see the whole, all the estuaries and wildlife, bird watching, alligator watching, and everything that does. And unbeknownst to me, Houma, or Terrebonne Parish, has the largest eagle population in the country right
Yep.
now.
That's exactly right.
And
For those of us who are aviary fans, and in aviation, so it's just I'm a little bit of a freak about that. I've known where all of our new eagles' nests have been, and so I'll tell a story on a different TEDA time about my favorite eagle story. But yes, so we have that, both brown and bald eagles.
So, and kayaking is becoming it's like Chris said, I'll steal his line, it's like pickleball. A lot of us didn't know what it was just a short time ago, and now it's everywhere.
Right.
But there's a trail and a trace, and now going for a big loop that you can go from one end of the state to the other, and so I could do a show probably all on itself on just
Kayaking the state, right?
Right. But there will be proposed kayak launches that you can utilize. It could be Bayou Cane, could be Whiskey Bayou, could be inside of it as well. So it's going to be conceptual at this point until we figure out the best, the safety of the kayaker,
Sure.
privacy of residents along the route, and things such as that.
Right. So, Aaron, if you don't mind, put up some of those other slides, because there's some of those proposed ideas where we can kind of see. And again, that's one of the areas.
This would be, if you're familiar with the area, this would be taken from the parking lot of Capital One Bank.
Okay.
So you're looking out across and going towards the left of the screen, be going to Highway 311. Martin Luther King would be to your right.
To the
and
right,
Rouse
okay.
is right across.
Okay. Next slide, if you don't mind, Aaron.
That's,
And
that's
go
the
ahead.
pump station.
Pump station that's already in existence.
Well, it's not in existence,
Oh,
but the groundbreaking.
The
was
groundbreaking
last Thursday.
for the beginning
Right.
of it is what I meant. Very good. Go ahead, Aaron. This would be one of those elevated walking trails.
Right, right,
And you said there's a lot of those berms that are already in place for
Correct.
some of that.
right. Won't be for it won't be for any motorized vehicles.
It's
so
for biking or walking only or running. Go ahead, Aaron.
that would be the proposed kayak lodge in Whiskey Bayou. This would be taken basically from the fire station on Savan Road.
Oh, wow, right behind that. And so you can see Chris is right out in front, Cohen's right behind him, and I'm launching. So we want you to kayak with your friends. Go ahead, Aaron, next. And again, another great shot where you and again, it just really just exemplifies the beauty of what that ecosystem really already looks like. And people, go ahead. Next one, Aaron.
So that's the view from the boardwalk. Looking out into the healthy ecosystem and bird watching.
And alligator watching. Go ahead, Aaron.
Yep. And you can see the alligator there. This must be in
right.
the winter that this rendition, because they're in polyester suits. So I don't know who would do that in August. But
Yeah.
It's not on the 109
Certainly
degree
not
weather we're
today.
expecting today. Go ahead, Chris.
Well, these are conceptual images.
Right.
But I think, one thing about this, the natural habitat that we talked about, one of the other partnerships is this is going to involve a team of people. Obviously, it's going to have civil engineers as part of it, given the stormwater management side of things. But, landscape architects will be involved in this, as well as environmental scientists. I mean, this is a good opportunity for this project to partner up with groups like Audubon, Ducks Unlimited, because they have programs already that are geared to do large-scale habitat restoration. And, this used to be a marsh that had lots of trees and open water for like prime wood duck habitat. So we'd like to see that come back. So ultimately, we'd like to be planting trees out there too as part of it. And by improving the natural ecosystem, even the man-made side of it will function more efficiently. Basically, we're just giving Mother Nature a little nudge and then let her do what she does.
Well, and look, basing it on some of the things that we've seen in the new park and about how we've really kind of been able to manage that landscape along with the different complexes that's out there, it's a great roadmap.
It's
for that.
1.5 billion gallons of water can be accommodated in this basin, which is amazing.
Right. And so we want to beautify that as well.
And we'd love to see public comment. You can find out more information by going to the parish's website on this project.
Yeah, we appreciate it. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us on TEDA Time today.
Thank you for having us.
You got it. All right, guys, that'll do it for this particular edition of TEDA Time. Don't go anywhere. A lot more local programming right here on HTV.